Jen, and let's take a look at sketch number 10. That was a rhyme on accident. So this sketch is a fun one, and it showcases one large photo with a title underneath it and then some journaling on a large banner piece. And I really think that this layout works well for, like I said, a showstopper, like something that you really want to showcase a certain photo, or you could do a collage of photos here really if you wanted to. But I think it's really great to showcase a favorite photo or just something really precious, or I think this would be a great if you are doing an album where you have like several pages of a certain event. This would be a great intro page. I have created an album where I went to, actually when I visited Tracy in Tennessee, we did several things, and so I have an intro page for each one of those layouts, and it just has a photo that kind of represents that place with a title, and it doesn't have much journaling on it, and then there are subsequent pages that go along with it. So I think this would be great for kind of an intro page if you do those kinds of things in your albums as well. But today what I'm going to do is focus on this sweet, sweet photo of my niece Zuri. She has the most precious little doll face. She looks just like my little brother when he was a baby, and I just want to showcase this precious photo. Now, in the sketch, the photo is 5 by 7. I had this printed before, and so I'm not going to reprint the photo larger. So this is a 4 by 6. I'm just going to create maybe some larger layers behind the photo, and that will help showcase it as well. So I'm going to be using that. I'm also using a cut file that comes with the class. Of course, you could just use letter stickers or something like that if you don't do cut files, but I'm using this one that says "Oh My Heart," and let me show you on this piece of craft paper so you can see it a little bit better. Because that is just exactly what I'm thinking when I look at this photo. Oh my heart, she is the most precious thing I've ever seen in my life. So I have that cut out in white. I may end up coloring it. I like to do some binge cutting, cut a whole bunch of things at once in white, and then I can color them whatever color I like. And so that is my plan with this. It may end up staying white. We'll just have to see how it goes. But I plan to back this entire layout on a piece of white cardstock. And then I am going to cut down this craft cardstock to be my banner. I've pulled several scraps and a few pieces that aren't scraps that I really liked to create my layers. I don't know if I'll use all of them. I probably won't, but we'll see what I end up using to create kind of a nice little home for my photo underneath all of these on top of the craft. So that is the plan for this one. I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward and you can watch how this layout comes together. So I'm going to start by cutting down my craft cardstock, and I'm just going to cut a couple inches off the sides. I think I make it about 9 inches wide, so that's a good size to me. And then I'm cutting about an inch off the bottom, maybe an inch and a half. And then to cut my banner, what I'm doing is I'm finding the center of the paper and then cutting a little slit up the middle, and that will make it really easy for me to just cut with my scissors from the corner up to that middle point, and then I get a nice even banner. And now I'm going to take out all of those scraps I pulled out and try to start layering up behind my photo. I love, love, love the way a diagonal stripe looks behind a photo, and so like as a border, and so I'm definitely using that one. And I'm just using different patterns, making sure they overlap in different areas and that they don't all end in the same place. I don't want any of the edges lining up because it just looks more natural, and it just looks, I don't know, it looks better that way if you have the corners so that they're all misaligned. I'm also making sure that the bits that I include of these papers are interesting. So that paper I just cut, I did it in such a way that you can tell that it says love you, but you barely see any of the word. And I really like the way that turns out. And you can see it on the final layout as well. So just placing that so you can see the hearts. At least one of the hearts is showing, even though it does get covered up a little bit. And creating a large cluster to kind of fill that space. I love this floral print from the Crate Paper Little You collection, and this text print is from the Sweet Girl collection. I think it's Cute Girl maybe. And both of those patterns are super, super cute. So I'm going to use those. And I decide that I need the width of this to go out a little farther. And so I cut the floral paper a little bit longer. And what I'm going to do is just make it so that it goes to almost to the edges of the craft colored cardstock. And I'm just cutting it in such a way that, again, the interesting bits are poking out. So on that left-hand side, what's showing now isn't super interesting. I'm going to cut it a little bit so that you can see a bit more of an interesting pattern there, so you get a bit more of the variation in colors and stuff. So I pay extra close attention to all of those kinds of things when I'm creating my layers. The details are what matter to me. So now you can see once I placed that down, there's about an equal amount of distance on the top and the sides with the photo and the layers there. I'm going to use this die cut that says Oh My Heart. That's one of the free downloads with the class that you can cut on your Silhouette machine or something similar. And that is going to be my title. And it layers over the photo perfectly. Whenever I have a little bit of extra space in the photo, I like to layer things there because it just makes everything feel tied together. And I'm just pulling a bunch of these die cuts from the Little You collection and a couple from the Cute Girl collection to just add some interest here. So I'm just building up a big cluster on the bottom right with my title, which is Oh My Heart. And then I'll build a smaller one on the top left. So this is similar to the sketch, except for I've flipped it where the embellishment goes anyway. So I pulled out the chipboard sheet for the baby collection, and I'm going to use this little arrow, and it kind of fits right in where the H stops on the O and goes across to where the Y ends. And I'm always looking for things like that look like they belong together. I'm going to put the little banner that's going across the heart on foam squares, and it says Love You to the Moon and Back. And I'm trying to decide if I want to outline this die cut so it stands out a little bit more. And so I'm just using some packaging to test it out on so that I don't have to write directly on the heart because I don't want to cut it out again. I'm being a little bit lazy. And so I just outline the whole thing on the packaging and then decide that I do want to outline it. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull that off and do it for real. And I wanted to test that out before I wasted my time on it. So I just did that. And now I'm outlining the edge of the banner as well, the craft banner. I'm using a fairly thin pen. I think it's 0.03 to do the outline with because I don't want it to take over. I just want it to add that little detail. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the banner glued down. And I know that I want to stitch at the top, so I didn't put any adhesive at the top. And I'm going to hand stitch at the top. And I think that hand stitching adds just such a soft and not always feminine, but a really soft touch, which is perfect for baby layouts in my opinion. So I'm using this little stitching template from Close to My Heart, and I'm just going to stitch across the top of the banner, and I'm going to do it with a thick amount of just white thread. And so I'm just using my Amy Tangerine little mat there that comes with some of her stitching templates and this little guide from Close to My Heart to do some kind of longer stitches here. And I'm just poking them all across the top, and I stopped just like one stitch after the edge of the banner. So I'm just pulling out my white thread here. So I'm using a needle with kind of a large eye hole because I want to use a thicker amount of thread. And I'm just tying a knot in the thread, and I'm going to do this a little bit different than I usually do. And I'm going to leave the knot and the open-ended string on the front so that it kind of looks like it's tied off almost. And so I'm just doing a back stitch, which means that I'm not leaving any spaces between the lines or between the stitches. I'm not leaving a space in between any of the stitches. And I'm going to tie off the other end the same way that I left the tied part on the end where I started. And I'm just trimming it down so there's just a little bit of overhang, and there you can kind of see how that looks when I'm all done. So I really like the way that turned out, and now I'm ready to go ahead and start embellishing. So I'm going to put down my title, and I'm going to use some foam squares, but I'm only going to put them on the heart because the words "Oh My Heart," because there are so many layers below the photo with all of the pattern papers that I included, I don't need to pop that part up. It is nice and popped up with those 10 layers of paper. I will pop up slightly the T for the word heart because it sits off to the side a little. And I'm just using some thin foam adhesive for that. Now I'll go ahead and put on this "Love You to the Moon and Back," and I'm putting that on some foam as well. And then I'm going to just kind of play around with building this cluster up at the bottom. I want to use those floral die cuts. I think they're super, super pretty. And they match the patterned paper, that's the floral piece that's sticking out a little bit more on the sides of the photo. And I'm also going to use some hearts and just layer up a few different things. There's a chipboard floral piece that matches the die cut piece. And I wanted to mimic it. So I used the chipboard piece at the top. And I'm going to tuck in a few other layers of different flowers all together here. Tucked that pink piece in, and now I'm going to use some hearts. I love the little heart with the eyes closed. I think it's super cute, and I'll layer that on top of the white heart in "Oh My Heart." Now, because I'm in a more is more kind of phase, I'm going to add some more stuff above "Oh My Heart" in that empty space on the photo. So I'm going to write my niece's name, which is Zuri, just with some Ellie's, oh no, these aren't Ellie Studio. These are some older basic gray letter stickers. I love the size of these kinds of letter stickers, and they're similar to the size of the Ellie Studio letter stickers as well. So I'm just going to I'm going to add those above the little arrow there, and I'm going to glue down that little heart as well as the little sleeping heart. I decided to outline the sleeping heart so that there were a few things outlined, and since it was next to the other outlined heart, I thought that would work well. And then the heart at the top, in the top cluster, is already outlined on the die cut, so that worked out nicely. And I just layered that on some foam adhesive. And now I'm going to use a couple of these glitter hearts to add in to my clusters because I love gold and I love glitter, and I just thought they went well with this. So there's a few hearts in each cluster. And now I'm going to write my journaling, and I'm using my ruler to draw some journaling lines just in the space to the left of that little cluster on the bottom. And I will write about this photo. This photo is the most precious thing I've ever seen in my entire life. This is my cute little niece, and her eyes are just so sweet, and she looks just like my little brother when he was a baby. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about, is how she just looks just like him. The round hair, the round face, the curly hair, and the dark eyes and everything. I had a little offcut of a scrap from before, so I just tucked it into my layers because why not? I didn't want to waste it. Now Zuri is 5 months old in this picture, and so I'm going to use this little sticker that says 5 months, and I decided to use a few other stickers along with it to bring in a little bit of the gold. I'm going to use the sticker that says perfect, and there's one that says the sweetest thing, and I move it right above the word Zuri and kind of stack those on top of each other. And then I'm going to use this little bow at the top. So it goes all the way from the top to bottom. So that might seem excessive. If it does, you could definitely just have stopped with the title and it would still look great. But because I layered everything up just on the craft piece, there's a lot of white space for you to kind of rest your eye on. And so it doesn't bother me that there's a lot more going on. So I just stamped the date April 2016 several times without re-inking it on the right. And now I'm going to stamp this phrase that says this, let's see, it says, it's hard to read because takes my breath away. So I stamped this in gold ink, and right when I stamped it, it looked pretty decent. I stamped it with that Delicata gold ink there. And now on the layout, it's kind of sunk in a little bit, and you can see it if you look at it really closely, but more than that, it's just kind of like a little gold area on the layout, and that's okay. It doesn't bother me. If it did, I would go back and just stamp it in black, but I'm going to leave it the way it is. So for a final touch, I'm just going to add some Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine but not before I look and see what else I might want to add. I think it's after I turn off the camera that I add a couple of little enamel stars from Close to My Heart, and you'll see that in the final photos at the end. Maybe I am going to show you. So here I'm shaking up the Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine. Now you have to shake this really, really well. And I'm just going to sprinkle it on the top right, or the top left and the bottom right, just in those two areas of embellishment. And I really like the way that the gold looks on top of the craft. Here's where I'm sprinkling those stars, so I guess I did show you. And I'm kind of putting 3 in the bottom cluster and 2 up on the top, so that equals 5 total. And I'm just going to play around with the placement a little bit. I'm kind of trying to find little areas where they can nestle in a bit. I thought I might want to add some of these Maggie Holmes dimensional flowers, but decide it's done and I'm not going to do that. So here is the final layout versus the original sketch. I stayed really pretty true to the sketch, except for the fact that I changed up the way that the embellishment goes. So the embellishment in the original sketch goes from top left to bottom right, but it just worked out with my photo having the open space here for me to put more embellishment on the right hand side. So be open to switching it up that way depending on how your photos look. So I added a lot more embellishment and I went up a little bit into the photo because I had that open space in the photo, and I think it really brings your eye right into her little face, which is super cute. So I had a lot of fun with this one. I know you're going to love Tracy's take on this sketch as well, so be sure to head over to the classroom and check out her video.